just so that everybody knows. So yes, she's Bolanle Shobowale. She's a financial expert with over 20 years experience in various sectors of the financial industry. She has proven ability to strategize and implement client management strategies and drive client and account management operations. She holds a solid academic background back to the BSc in Industrial Relations and Personnel Management from the University of Lagos, a Global Executive MBA in General Management from IE Business School in Madrid, Spain, alongside various professional development programs, including business model innovation in the digital age from Wharton Business, leading transformation in an organization from Kellogg's Business School, and leadership transformation from MIT Sloan. She's an associate of the Retail Banking Academy, UK, and a certified trainer from the Service Quality Institute, USA. She offers a strong commitment to client services excellence, demonstrated with experience in client-facing roles in the financial industry, in the financial services sector in Nigeria. She has served with IBTC Pension as the head, Benefit Administration and Client Services, IBTC Bank Nigeria, head Customer Experience and Integrated Processing Center, and the head Client Services in IBTC Pension Managers. Before I continue, we need to applaud her. This is a lot. It's a lot. So, prior to this, she served with Main Street Bank Nigeria as Senior Manager, Client Services, and Head of Business Development and Product Innovation. She defined the overall client relationship management strategy and went beyond client experience to steer business growth, retail strategy, and product improvement strategy. She formulated quality assurance standards that reduced client complaints by 42% within a year. That's superb. Rolled out the digital channel strategy that generated $5.5 million. It's dollars, guys, not naira. Okay. Dollars in revenues over 5 months, and spearheaded culture change and rebranding that increased productivity by 28%. Please, guys, help me welcome our speaker this evening, Sister Bolanle Shobowale.
We can hear you. You're muted, Jeje.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you. Yes, you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can come in. It is you. I muted myself to give you time to take over.
Oh, God. Unfortunately, I can't even see myself anymore. Can you guys see me?
I can see you.
Okay. Can you see me now?
No, you've taken yourself off now. Now, you've taken yourself. Now we see you.
Okay, I don't know why I can't see myself.
Well, yeah, okay. Looking very beautiful. Just trust me. Just
all
trust
right.
me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bolanle Shobowale, as Jeje has introduced, and it's really, really nice to be here this evening. Yes, this evening, I guess, everywhere. And today we're just going to be talking about, managing our debt. I know a lot of people call it debt, but let me just correct us. The B inside is silent. So when we say, what is your debt? It's not so it's the B silent. And so we're just going to be talking about how to manage our credit. And I was saying to Jeje before some of you joined that I like to tell stories. I like to tell stories because you'll find out that those things really stay with people for a long time. And I remember one of the times that I had the opportunity to preach at the Covenant Nation. And it was interesting that for a very long time, people would see me and just say, Jehovah El Romantic, Jehovah El Pizza. And it was interesting that, of all the several things that were said in that sermon, It's the things that related with people, the things that resonated with them from the stories, you know, that it took away. And I usually like to use that approach. It's something I found to work. And so before we get into what we're going to be discussing this evening, I guess the first question is it really a good thing to have debt? As in, you know, let's even start from that. You know, as Christians, you hear things like, I shall lend to nations, I shall not borrow, you know. And so sometimes I've been confronted with a question, especially from a career perspective and from a ministry perspective, to say, is it really right to borrow? And I think that's where I'll start my conversation from today, to say, even the prophet said to the widow, go to your neighbors and borrow vessels. You know, there are sometimes that the things that you want to do, you know, you might not have enough to do it. And you can use what is called OPM, other people's money. And so this evening, I just want to remove that from our minds. There is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with borrowing. Now, the next question would typically be, okay, so if there's nothing wrong with borrowing, how come people then find themselves in a vicious cycle? And so I would like to just, if you have your pen and your paper, I would just like for you to write this down. There are two types of debts. You have what we call the good debts, and we have the bad ones. So any debts or any monies that you collect that helps you to generate income and helps you to increase your net worth is a good debt. So the two major criteria for whether a debt is good or whether it is bad, for something to qualify as a good debt, you know, it must be helping you to generate income, and it must be helping you to increase your net worth. Now, and so for bad debts are really just things that they just don't add to you. They don't increase your net worth, neither are they helping you to generate income. So they're typically things that help you that provide some gratifying desires. So you know what, I'm driving let me think about it right now. I'm driving a RAV4, but you know what, I think I just want to compensate myself. I've worked very hard. I think I should just upgrade to a range, you know, and then you go get a car note and then you start paying that. That is a bad debt, as it were, because it's a wasting, there is a wasting asset. Now, there are 4 types of loans, and I want us to write it down. You have the first one, what we call the secured loan. We have the unsecured loan. We have the revolving loan, and we have the non-revolving, or what some people call instrumental loans. So we have the secured loans, we have the unsecured loans, we have the revolving loans, and we have the non-revolving, or otherwise called installment loans. So now, what are your secured loans? Secured loans are basically loans that you get, you know, and is backed up by an asset. You know, there is a security, there is a collateral, and those are typically your mortgage. You know, that's your mortgage loan. Your car loan is also a secured loan because the car stands as the collateral, you know, for the loan. Your unsecured loans are basically, you know, your credit cards, your student loan, your payday loan. There isn't any collateral, you know, for your unsecured loan. Your revolving loans are those loans that you get and you do not have to pay any specific amount. So you hear sometimes when the banks say, oh, we've given you a revolving line of credit. So you're not expected to pay a certain, you know, amount every month. It's not necessarily secured. or secured. So you also have the non-revolving, which is the instrumental loan. And those are like your student loans that, you have to pay a certain amount every month and all of that. Now, I haven't categorized this. And so I'll go back to the conversation. And like I said, I was going to share a story. So some years ago, I had the opportunity. I'd gone on vacation, and I got back, and my landlord at the time, this was back home in Nigeria. It was a service department, and there was a way we used to buy like diesel, contribute to buy diesel and all of that. And we had just bought diesel before we left. So when we got back and there was another invoice for diesel, we wanted to ask questions. So we thought that the invoice we were getting was the invoice for the diesel that was purchased before we left. And then they said, no, it's another diesel that was being purchased. Anyway, long and short, we asked questions that got the person a bit aggravated. And the next thing, we were told that, so no. So they disconnected us from the big gen. Now, the way the place was configured, we're not allowed to bring in our own generators. So when they say, you're disconnected from the general gen, what's going to happen? I don't remember if we were able to use our small gen, and maybe, yes, well, I think initially when they removed us, we're allowed to. But what it meant was that if they took light and it was the middle of the night, the security men had been instructed not to turn it off for us. It was just very funny. And so I remember very well, I was very upset about it. And, we said, okay, how were we going to deal this? Let's move. So we began to look for somewhere to move to. And it was then it dawned on us that, wow, the cost of renting, and because we're not sitting tenants, and we needed to pay all the agencies. So we're just moved into this place as well, 6 months prior. But because we knew the landlord, things like agency and all of that were waived, and it was just 1 year. For those of you that don't live in Nigeria, we have some very funny costs. Like if you're not careful, it's as much as the cost of renting the apartment itself. Anyway, fast forward, and we began to look for, and we eventually found somewhere. And then I remember that day, as I was just talking to the realtor, the estate agents, and I just thought about it, that wait a minute, the cost of renting this place, if we stretched a bit, could actually form a down payment to buy a place. So we didn't set out to buy, we're setting out to rent, we wanted to leave. And then we thought about it, that come on, I don't understand. All the houses that we are seeing, by the time we put in all the costs and the associated charges, it made a bit more sense to just maybe stretch a bit and look for a property, and maybe in a further place, and just use that down payment. And so that was how we got into the trying to purchase. And then somewhere along the line, we found something that was way out of our budget and all of that. But like I was saying during one of the meetings that we had, that I like to dream big. The same amount of time that it takes to dream small is what it takes to dream big, and the dream must be big. So I said, why not? Let's try Magodo, and that was how we got into looking for. But let me tie it back to the conversation of credit. So what had happened was, when we then found the place, funding our equity, we did have, but we didn't have enough, and so we needed to take a loan. So at the time, mortgages were not very common. This was 2000, and my son is 16, so this was 2000, and this was 14 years ago. It was about two thereabouts at the time. So getting a loan at that, a mortgage was almost impossible. But we said, okay, let's get a term loan, a 5-year term loan. And so we got the 5-year term loan. Then we would then start looking for, a mortgage, since I worked in a financial institution at the time. And we got the loan. My point was, it was actually a bit expensive, but it was a good credit. It was a good debt. I bought that house at about 27 million. When it was going to be sold some years later, of course, we had lived in it, so if you look at the cost of, what's it called? What's that thing now? The rental, this that we had enjoyed from it, because we had to pay rent and all of that. We had lived in it. At the time we were selling, rents in that area was about maybe 2.5, 2.6 and thereabout. We had lived in it for maybe 10 years, over 10 years and all of that. and we still sold for over 80 million. Now, so that is a good debt, because sometimes you hear people say, oh, I don't want to take, what's it called? I just want to grow organically and all of that. There are some things that you can grow organically. However, there are some things that, you know what, maybe if you left a good inheritance, the Lord smiles on you, and we always pray that the Lord smiles on all of us and all of that. They are, I don't know that it's really a very realistic goal, you know, when people say, okay, I want to, you know, save, you know, I want to continue to save and save until I can build up how much I'm going to use to buy a house of, say, maybe $700,000 and all of that. I don't even know that this environment, you know, is configured in that way, as it were. So just to put it out there that, you know what, so a secured loan is good. A secured loan that is a mortgage loan, where, remember the definition that we had said that makes up a good loan at the beginning, you know, where we say that it's helping you generate income and is increasing your net worth. So, or increasing your net worth. So if you take a mortgage loan, for example, and you leave there, you might not necessarily be generating any income, but you know what, is increasing your net worth. So from the capital gains on the property and all of that. Now, if you also think about the fact that if you are not paying your mortgage, you'll be paying rent to someone else anyway. And so you're taking that rent that you're paying, you know, sorry, the mortgage payment, the monthly mortgage you're paying, monthly mortgage payments, you know, it's your rent and all of that. So that's a good one. Now, so it's good to just establish that. Then we go to the next one, of the one that is the most common one around here, credit card. It's really, and you know, I was a bit conflicted as to how to categorize your credit card, whether it's a bad or good debt. Now, a credit card is, I'll consider it can be both. It can be both a good debt and a bad one. Now, we'll get to the things that determine how your credit is computed, how your credit score is computed. I'll get to it later on. And one of it is called your credit history. And one of the easiest and fastest ways to build up credit history is from a credit card. So if you don't then have one, how then do you build up that history? It becomes a problem where, you know what, you don't pay it, you only pay the minimum, you max it out, you know, and then, you know, you miss a payment. So we'll get to all of that as well. So your credit card is actually, if you ask me, is both a good debt and a bad one. A good debt in the sense that it helps you build your credit history. It helps you have a credit footprint, whereby if people wanted to give you a loan or a credit, or it was called for a secured loan, for a mortgage or something that is a good debt, there's always need to infer somewhere to check, okay, what's this person's credit credibility like? Was it, you know, there are 5 C's of credit. You have capacity, you have credibility, you have cash flow, you have collateral, and what's the 5th one now? Try to remember. So you have capacity, credibility, cash flow, collateral. If anyone can help me with the last C.
Character.
Character. No, that's credibility. That's your credibility. There's a C. I'll try and remember. And you know, thank you very much. Thanks for bailing me out. Yeah, but I think there's another C. And you know, one of the things that a lender would usually say is that, you know what, the most important to me in all of these C's is not your collateral. I'm not in the business of selling assets or recovering assets. You can have cash flow and not want to pay. Okay, conditions. Okay, so you can have what's it called? You can have capacity, you know, and still you have the money, but there's no willingness. You have the cash flow, but you just don't want to pay. But the most important for the person is credibility, character. And the only way that the lender can see credibility or character is from your history, is from the past. So they want to be able to draw inference from how you've behaved in the past with your previous lenders. And there's an adage in Yoruba that says that the cane that they used to flog the senior wife is waiting on top of the roof for the junior one. For those of us that understand, that adage. So it's just saying that, if you treated your previous lenders very poorly, nothing tells us that, we will be any different. So we want to be able to place reliance on that, So that's one of the things that people are looking at and saying, we want to check. Now, so that's why I say a credit card is both good and bad. Good to allow you have your digital footprint, good to allow you establish, even to be disciplined, good to understand the discipline of, okay, yes, I have this money here, but it's not really mine. So, and, I use it and I put it back. And we'll get to that as well. How do you turn your credit card from, how do you keep your credit card as a good debt? We'll talk about that as we go along. Now, the other kind of debt, and so I'll just mention them, so then we'll then talk about how to manage it, since that's what we're here to do this evening. The other kind of debt is, your car loan, your automobile loan, and all of that. And personally, is one of those things that I have a very different school of thoughts for. And in all of these things, all of these conversations, I'm talking about my own personal experience. I'm talking about what I think, what I've seen work, and it would differ from person to person. I think the ones that you find relevant and useful, apply them. The ones that you think, no, I beg, this does not apply to me, by all means. Now, I say that a car is a wasting asset. I haven't said that because of the climate that we're in, it's important to find a car that serves you well, that is functional, that would not break down, given the nature of cold and the weather. And so once you can tick off all of that, this car won't get into the mechanics all the time. This car would not break down on the road. This car would not, has a very good heating system or a very good cooling system, whichever, depending on the season that you're in. I think, and it can take and it's safe. So if let's say, for example, you're a family of 7, your considerations of what kind of car you buy is different from someone that is a family of 4. A family of 4 can conveniently say, we would work with a sedan, and ultimately someday we will get to being able to buy an SUV or a 7-seater. It's different if the family is larger. It's also different from a single person. And I think financial planning. So this thing, I'm not going to talk about too much about, because people, they kind of like narrowed me into debt and credit management. But that's one of the things I teach in financial planning, understanding your circumstance and getting assets or liabilities that match your circumstance. So when I see a single person in this part of the world, where it's not an issue of bad road and all of that, driving a 7-seater, I'm a bit curious as to what end, to what purpose. And we'll get to that point later on where, you can afford it. A time would come that some of those things are not non-issues. When I mean non-issues, you've worked, you've invested, you've done the right things, and you can then afford it. That car is no longer on that car note. Even if it were maybe $100, $200, and that's just because you wanted to, not because you couldn't have paid, outrightly for it. So, for your car loan, or your car notes, as it is called in some places, I'm a bit careful, because I'm like, as long as you're clear as to the objective of why you need to drive a car, and those are some of the things that we talk about in financial planning: discipline and focus. Discipline and focus is so powerful, especially when you come into a place like this as an immigrant. Trust me, there are distractions. There are, what's it called? There's a temptation that, me too, I'm in the abroad. There are some things I must be able to do. Not necessarily. A time would come where you can do them. I always say to people that life is in stages, men are in sizes. So a time will come that, trust me, buying those kind of cars would not be a big deal. In fact, just to go back to my story of the good assets. So when we bought the house in 2017, I remember now, 2007, sorry. It was a term loan and repayment was we're paying about 700K monthly for mortgage in 2007, 14 years ago. That was no joke. Of course, we first of all I think we had 2 cars at the time. We parked one, and said, you know what, we can't afford to be driving 2 cars around Lagos and all of that. And those are some of the discipline and some of the things that I say to people, that when you're on a financial, should I call it, a financial fitness journey, there are certain sacrifices that you need to make. There are certain, sacrifices that you need to turn your eyes, so certain things that you need to turn away from. And those things are temporary, I can tell you for free. In fact, let me tell you some of the things that happened while we were servicing that loan. We had to cut away things like chicken. And I'm not kidding you, I'm not exaggerating here. We cut away things like chicken. I really, really love to travel. As in, anyone that knows me knows that I love to travel. We cut away travels. In fact, I remember my travel agents calling me and saying, Bolanle, some of your miles will expire. Can you promo? I said, promo, sha. And funny enough, she's also my namesake. I was like, Bola, let promo just stay as I am right now. We are in this Lagos, Nigeria together. Nobody is going anywhere. Things that we could easily do, all the eat out, all the what's it called, those sacrifices needed to be made. Because trust me, 14 years ago, even now 700K is not small money. So imagine 14 years ago, 700,000. What that meant was that by the time we got our salary, we removed the children's school fees, everything just went into the loan and all of that. And that was because we even had like small side business and side hustles that we were involved in. That's how we're able to. But and there were so many things I couldn't do. In fact, let me tell you something. At that time, I cut my hair. I had low cuts. I couldn't afford to be going to the salon. And when I shared the stories, this was called, people go like, Bolanle, was that not extreme? I'm like, you don't understand it. By the time I remove mortgage and we combine we had to remove money remove the money for the children's, school fees and all of that. We didn't have money for frivolity. Going to salons, go and be doing so the easiest way was when I'm 90, the only part of my body that will still be growing is there. I kukuma just do like small baby coil and just like, I want a new look. And the thing is about your story, or anything you want to tell people is your story. Yes, I want a new look. I didn't have to tell anybody that right now we are managing ourselves. So that's an aside. That's more around the financial fitness. But I'm saying that even in managing your debt, because right now some of us are already neck deep in some serious, debts and all of that. And some of these tips can be, I trust that it will be very helpful, because even the Bible says that wisdom is profitable to direct. You can't be doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result. So that's about the car loan. Yeah, so I know something that is also very common around here is student loan. It's not something that is common, back home. There's nobody giving you any student loans. But if you have student loans here as well, it's something that you need to take care of. It's something that you need to service, and it ultimately impacts your credit. Now, I'm just going to talk about the things that impact your, before I go to the things that impact your credit. Let's talk about the things that impact your credit. And if you have a pen, you can just please take it down. So things that impact your credit score, you have your payment history, that's your credit history. You have your used versus, used credit versus available credit relative to your credit limit. You also have the length of credit history. That's also part of it. One of the things that also impact your credit score is public records. So things like bankruptcy, things like, owing maybe city tax or owing utilities from the government or whatever, it also does impact your credit. Then the other one is about number of inquiries. So I've heard people say to me like things like, oh gosh, I just saw my credit score go down. And truth be told, even I didn't know. I took a course that, you know, helped with some of this. And it was interesting because a lot of, you know, sometimes just, you know, when you pull up your credit, you see that it's at a certain distance, you check again, the thing has dropped, nothing has happened, you've not defaulted. But all those, well, when you go to, maybe you go to Bolanle or you go somewhere, oh, do you want a credit card? You know, and okay, I don't mind, you know, they do a credit pull. Now, when you're the one doing a credit pull for yourself, that's called a soft pull. It doesn't impact your credit score. Some banks like the BMO app, for example, allows you to just check from time to time, you know, but when it's a third party pulling it up because you've applied for a loan, that's called a hard pull. And when that happens, it impacts your credit score because it also shows that, you know what, you're shopping for credits and all of that. So it's very important to take note of that. Now, your payment history and your payment history takes, let me just tell you the percentages. So if you have a pen, you can also write that down. Your payment history accounts for 35% of your credit score. 35%. So you know everybody's credit score starts from 900 and then it begins to like go down, it begins to go down and all of that. Your used versus available. And so let me start with what do I mean by payment history. So, you know, you paid your mortgage at the right time, you paid your credit card at the right time and all of that. You paid all of your, and so those of us that use like all this contract, what's it called, phones and contract cable and all of those things. In fact, I think it's Bell, if I'm not mistaken, one of this, because this is public, you know, I take that back, I'm not very sure, but one of these telcos, you miss your payment like this, it goes to the bureau immediately. So your payment history accounts for 35% of your credit score. Now, your used versus available accounts for 30% of your credit score. And what do we mean by used versus available? So just imagine that you have a credit limit of, say, 3,000 on your credit card. And every time, you know, you've used up about 2,700 and you're just paying maybe the minimum or 5% or whatever the minimum is and all of that, you're setting up yourself for big trouble. Now, I always advise that where possible, please use your credit card like almost a debit card. Now, this is my own personal view. This is how I run my credit this thing. In fact, let me tell you how bad it is sometimes for me. As I'm buying the thing, as I'm in the store, as I'm buying it with my credit card, before I leave, I move the money immediately into my credit card back. I move it back. And even if I was called, I make sure that my utilization per time is no more than 10%. So even if I don't move back, if I have a credit, say I have a credit line of 2,000, I make sure that my available is 1,800 at every point in time. Now, the recommended is 65%, that your availability should be at 65%, meaning that if you had a 2,000 credit limit, try and keep your availability at 1,300. But please, I'm begging you, if you can, please keep it at 90. Seriously. Because what it also does for you is that it makes sure that you don't spend money that you don't have. Because see, the moment you know that you need to like put back that money, when you go into a store and you see that, you know, Ferragamo shoes smiling at you, and you're thinking, oh, I still have some headroom in my credit card, I can buy it. If you know that you don't have money in your normal current, in your checking account to pay back immediately, don't touch it. Yes, you have a 30 days period, you have a what's it called, as long as you're not defaulting, yes. But there is a 30% of your entire, in fact, 30% of 900 is 270. There's a 270 that is at risk when you're always maxing out your credit limit. Not that you miss the payment. You pay your 5%, you pay as a when due. But you say once you're exceeding or you're going too much into your limits, at every, and keeping that, your limit is always, your spend is always close to your limit. You have a 270 that is at stake. Now, the third thing that impacts your credit, and so that's why, we'll talk about how to manage all of this. The third thing that impacts your credit is your credit history. Now, so that talks about how long you've had the credit for, how many credits do you have and all of that, just your history and your footprint. And remember, that's why I said that a credit card can actually be a good debt, because it allows you have a credit footprint to be able to have a credit score and a credit history. Before even you get a mortgage or anything, that's usually easier to get. It's just then how do you manage it. Now, public records. I'm going to share a story of what happened to me. So I had a tenant in Canada. And when he moved in, normally, he should have changed the utility to his name. And he just said, oh, he was going to get it done. He didn't get it done. And for the longest bit, because I just took it for granted that, he had changed it to his name and all of that, the person, and it was in the, I think, no, this one was even in the main floor suite. So I just took it for granted that, it was being paid. Then one day I saw a collection letter or something like that, giving me a deadline or something like that to pay. Because of course, when there is no tenants in the house, it carries the utilities would come in your name. And so when you have a new tenant, please, for those of us that, you want to do, you want to do real estate for investment and all of that, please always ensure that before your tenants, as it moves in, and you've signed a lease, insist that same day, it should form enough basis for you to stop that same day. The utilities, whether it's the power, whether it's energy, whether it's, everything must go to the person's name. All the utilities that that he will be the one taking care of. So I didn't know. And I think when they just checked my credit, and this was a credit that was 800 and something, and the thing had dropped. And I was like, what is happening here? My philosophy is, I don't do more than myself, and nothing in my wildest imagination actually, pointed me in that direction. Until I then saw the collection letter, and then they were telling me about, I was so upset. Before I could even start getting upset, I went to first of all and settle the bill, and then come back to face, the tenants and all of that to recover my money. But unfortunately, I don't know that anybody would listen to you to say, oh, it's your tenant's fault and all of that. So things like public records, your government utilities, things like your phone bills. Like I said, some of the phone companies, straight up, you miss it like this, is gone. Things like, inquiries as well have an impact on your credit score. So all this, like I said, we went to Walmart, they're offering you a card. Don't forget that they will pull up your credit too. This one, they pull. So every inquiry, as long as it's a hard pull, meaning that you're the one requesting for a loan, it does impact. I think it's about 5 points. So imagine that, you do sort maybe like 5 or 10, that's 50 gone out of your 900. And a lot of people lose from this 900, that from payment history, because, you missed the payments, you forgot and all of that. Now, how to manage some of these things? One of the things I recommend very strongly, any payments that would impact your credit score, rule of thumb, please put it as a direct debit. Please write it down. Any payment that would impact your credit score, please make it a direct debit in your most vibrant, your primary account, that account that that there's always money there. Because the best of us would forget. It does happen, and that's the truth. And if you know that, okay, you don't want to put it in, you don't want to do a direct debit, what I've done, for example, for my phone bill, is that I've put I put more than. So it's always in excess. So like if my phone bill usually is about, I think 130, 140 for my son and I. So at every point in time, I have like 2 months phone bill that would come in, lying down there. And so I just, even if I then forget, but at least they would have been able to take their money. What I'm just doing is, what I'm remembering to do is to top up again. Now, that might not be an efficient way, if you're trying to manage cash flow, is to just then set up a direct debit on your account. If you want to do a mental, I would remember this, I would remember that, a lot of times we do forget. And you know what, forgetting is not an excuse. For public records, the easiest way to go about it, to manage that particular what's it called, is to not even get into this thing. Pay whether it's your utilities on time and all of that. Now, I'll quickly talk about for those that are already in, the debt is there, they found themselves in some situation, and it's a matter of, okay, what? Well, we've heard all these nice things, but hey, the deed has been done. We made some poor choices. There are two schools of thought on which type of credits or which type of loans to pay off first. And I always encourage people personally. And now, like I always say, like normally when I do class, I say I speak as a man. So even in this situation, I just speak with that which I know and that I've experienced. I always encourage people to pay the loans with the highest interest. Now, there are some school of thoughts that say, please always pay your secured loans first, because those are the loans that are collateralized and you stand the risk of, of losing it. So let's assume, for example, you have your total exposure or your total, repayments every month is about 1,500 and all of that. And you have your mortgage of, say, 1,000 to pay. You have your, say, credit card, or you took a payday loan, and that payday loan is almost at 30% or whatever ridiculous, rates that's, is running at. You see, once you pay your secured loan, just to get it out of the way, because of course you have the risk of losing, you stand the risk of losing your asset. The next set of loans that you want to pay are the loans that, have that the interest rates are very high, because if you go and concentrate on something that maybe your interest rates on it, say, let's assume that you have a revolving loan, for example, and the revolving loan allows you to just pay a minimum of, say, $50 or 2% of whatever you've utilized. You're better off, and the revolving loan, say, is at 7% per annum, just as an example, or 1 plus prime, whatever that comes to, or 5 plus prime, sorry, whatever that comes to. And you have another loan that is running at 20-something%. I usually would encourage people that, you want to focus your attention on reducing your interest element. And the way to do that is to pay the interest where you have, very high interest rates. And all of that. Now, how do we even ensure that we don't even get into, before I get there, so you're already in this situation, the loans are there and all of that. Now, if you're struggling, say, to pay your mortgage, and you're there, and so let's assume now that it's a family of four, or a family of four, and it's a 4-bedroom, for example. We are in that part of the world where there's Airbnb. And sometimes when you're on a journey of financial fitness, there are sacrifices that need to be made. Sometimes it might even be as much as listeners, do we want to sell and, downscale a bit, where you're asking yourself and your spouse, or, if you're alone, to say, do I really need this much space? Especially where what we say about a good debt is helping you generate income. So there's no point you paying so much, and there is no you're paying so much and you're not able to generate income. Meanwhile, you can take out some equity, you can downscale, you can go somewhere else, and then be able to breathe. And let me tell you what breathing does for you. It allows you make more optimal decisions. I've realized that when people are under financial pressure, they make very, very suboptimal decisions. And so they continue in that rat race. They keep going, they keep going round and round. But when you're in a relaxed state, so you look at it and say, really and truly, do we really need this 4-bedroom? except it's 4-bedroom where you're generating income from some part of the house and you're using it to augment. But if it's all, what's it called? We need a what's that thing called now? Hey, cinema room. We need a kinikon room. And I'm not, these things are nice. Seriously. Even me, I am of the Chop Life gang. Those things are nice. But you see, life is in stages. Men are in sizes. There is a way to plan your finances today that tomorrow you will do those things. So today, by the grace of God, I've visited every continent. And I've done 20-something countries. And a lot of times people are always like, this babe, she must have a lot of money. I receive it in Jesus' name. But a lot of what people see right now are the sacrifices of yesterday. The sacrifices of, you know what, I'm not going to change my wardrobe. The sacrifices of, you know what, it's only fish. The sacrifices of, you know what, I'm going to go and get a haircut because I can't afford it. The sacrifices of delayed gratification. The sacrifices of, you know what, somebody brings jewelry to it looks very nice and you're like, oh my God, I would really like this. But you look at it, you have a conference with yourself immediately and borrow yourself some brain, as they say it in Nigeria. And you say to yourself, no, I can't afford this right now. So if you plan yourself properly, a time would come. Trust me, that range, you'll buy it from the income on an investment. You know, that's lovely house, the gym place, the recreation, all of those things you will be able to. So my point is, even when you have a good asset or when you have a good loan, be careful that, you know what, you're able to milk, and we call it sweating the assets. Be careful that you're sweating the asset to get maximum benefit from it. When you sweat an asset and you get the maximum benefit from it, you're able to recreate another one. You're able to multiply it. You're able to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do another one right now. From the money we're getting from our basement tenants, you know what? We've saved it up now, and you know, we are building. We are saving towards equity for another property again. So I just thought to mention that let's be very careful for our credit cards. Okay, I should be rounding up right now. So for our credit cards as well, please, let's not spend money that we don't have. You know, it's good. Like I said, it can be good debt, it can be bad debt, but be very careful that you don't get drawn into that. You know what, I have a credit limit and everything that you see inside, and then you're just paying the minimum. Remember that what you pay, your used versus your available, accounts for 30% of your credit score. You know, you don't, it's not enough to just say, I'm paying my monthly, what's it called? Yes, my monthly amount due. You know, that's not sufficient. You want to keep it at, you know, utilization that is less than 30%. And really, if you can, my advice, if you cannot keep it at 0, meaning you always just put it back, ensure that utilization is no more than 10%. Because that way it just helps you manage your credit score. It helps you manage even your finances, you know. So in summary, all the things that we desire for the future, they are possible, but you know, it takes adequate planning, it takes discipline, it takes delayed gratification, and it takes focus. Seriously, some of those things might not seem very what's it called, you know, they might seem like even in the abroad. So why did we come here? And it's not to enjoy ourselves. But you know what, you own your journey, you own your story. It's whatever you want people to be aware of that they are aware of. If you decide to downgrade from an SUV to a what's it called because you want to reduce your card notes and manage your debt, your credit or your debt or your whatever, your repayments, it's your story, it's you. You don't owe it to anybody to start explaining why you think, you know what, I'm moving to a sedan or whatever. And I just trust that the Lord will grant us wisdom, you know, as we all continue on this financial fitness journey. So at this point, I would like to stop and take questions and maybe dialogue. I'm sure we also have some experts in the room. It would be nice to also hear other opinions. Like I said, this has been my own personal journey. This is how how I've dealt with it. I remember some years ago back home in Nigeria, I had this Pajero and everything. My children were not around. I heard that my cars were doing well in the market. I sold the thing and I started driving I had some cars on Uber. I just sold and started driving one of my Uber cars. I just went down to a Corolla. People almost fainted. Well, is anything wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with driving a Corolla? There's nothing wrong with it. Seriously. And so you must learn to test your decisions. Otherwise, there's a likelihood that people will want you to make you feel less than, I think there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's your journey and you know where you're going to. So thank you very much. Over to you, JJ.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. That was, just listening to some of those tips was really nice. There are some things like when you were talking about the fact that before you even leave the store, you pay your credit. That was me. And that is still me. It's like initially, coming to this part of the world when you live in Nigeria where there's nothing like credit. I remember myself initially getting here and I was like, I cannot spend somebody's money. I don't want credit card. And people will be like, no, you need a credit card to build the score, to do this and that. So yeah, then I got one. And in fact, I got one that was 2,000. I'm not doing any big thing. And if I spend $10, I'll put the $10 if I spend, because then I didn't even I didn't want to. I had to actually sit down and read about it. Okay, what am I so? How can this thing, help or whatever? Like I don't want any issues. So that was, it's really, really insightful. And some of the things that I heard, in fact, I was writing all those things you said we should write down. I was actually writing them down because there's some of those things that I've not heard of before. So guys, everyone, please feel free to raise your hands if you want to ask any questions, or just unmute yourself and ask, or you can also type in the chat box your questions. I know for those that are in my group, this week was really looking into, credit and debt, and some of the things that you talked about. We're also reading this book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And to be fair, I always just had this thing about credit until last semester when somebody actually really dealt into how you can make your credit card earn money for you. Just like something you were saying, like you can use it to get something that is bringing in money. So it can be used as a good thing, And, reading that book, The Richest Man in Babylon, one of the points that the guy talks about is there's the borrowing part. There's actually a part that, you can get money, you can get, because there was this guy that had an opportunity he had an idea and he didn't have enough capital to run that in himself. And so he had to get other people, and the plan was, we'll all put in this amount of money. And at the end of the day, after we are done, we sell, we'll share. And this other guy he had invited did not join, he didn't do it. And so basically what the book was trying to tell us was that, it's that part of missed opportunities, that some of these things, because we have this notion about it that I don't want to do this thing, or I cannot borrow.
I don't want to borrow. In fact, sorry, JJ, to interrupt you. And I forgot another very important good debt that we should, haven't properly planned, sorted out, business plan is the business loan. Sometimes you cannot scale a business except you have family and friends. There's some businesses that you can grow organically. However, there's some businesses that, you need to scale. And if you don't have family members, if you also don't want to do equity, meaning that you don't want to dilute ownership, you're not quite sure that you've found the right partners, because there are certain intricacies around, parting with equity in your business. So you might think, okay, you know what, I've not found the right person to give equity to. The easiest thing is debt. So, and one of the things that it does for you when you take debt in a business is that it allows you to be disciplined. It allows you to stay disciplined, that, what, I need to be able to pay back, I need to do, and all of that, I need to refund this person's money. So you always just have it at the back of your mind that, what, all of this money doesn't belong to me. Sales is not profit, turnover is not profit. It just helps you keep your books properly. So I just thought to also mention that.
I see some people unmuting themselves. Ibe, do you have anything or any of the? You guys have any questions?
Yes, I do. I should probably turn on the video too. Yes, I do have a question. Thank you so much for the session. I did learn a lot, especially about good debts as well. And that's where my question is, because I had a friend talk to me about he had put some money in mutual funds that was giving him monthly dividends, and he called me to tell me about it. And he said it was a good idea. He was getting up to 700 a month just from monthly dividends. So he said that, sorry about that. I think my neighbor is doing something. So he said that when he started initially, he wanted to see what the profit would look like, and he was getting 200 a month. And when he saw that he was getting that money consistently, he went to get a line of credit of about 40,000, just so he could dump all of it in the mutual fund. And the logic behind it for him was the dividend he was getting was enough for him to pay the interest of the line of credit and pay, I think, the monthly payment of the line of credit. So he basically had used the loan to dump in mutual funds, was getting monthly dividends, using the dividends to pay some of the loan back and keeping some of the money to himself. So he said it was a good idea, basically borrow money to make more money. But I wasn't too comfortable with the idea because that's a large amount. What happens if the funds fail or there is no profit? He said it's pretty consistent. And so I want to know what you think about that.
Okay, so, and I'll just share my own personal story. So when I was moving down here, I wanted to sell my house, and everybody thought it wasn't a very good idea. And I said to them that, you know what, I had a mortgage on the property. And I said to them that, you know, the mortgage on that property is 18%. What's the ROI for rent? So I said to them that, see, if I rent it out, rent in my estate was about 3.54 million. The mortgage payments on the property is about 500, almost 600,000. 600,000 times 12 is 7.2 million as against, so it didn't make sense. And I guess because we didn't have enough time, it's one of the things that you want to be careful about, even in saying that a good credit, a good debt helps to generate income. So as long as the interest repayments, the income you're getting is sufficient for income for interest repayments, I think is a good idea. Now, I think it's also very risky. Personally, I won't borrow to do that kind of investment, to do mutual funds. And I'm a bit curious because I have money in mutual funds in the 6 digits, and I don't get $700 per month. If anything, the day that, I don't know how many of you were aware of that day that WhatsApp did not work.
Yeah.
You know that day that WhatsApp just went down and everything just, that day alone, 7K disappeared from my money. I wanted to run bunker. I just went, I just said, let me even check my mutual fund. 7,000, the thing had defeated by 7K. By the next day, the thing had, so that's the mutual fund risk, because a mutual fund is an aggregation of different investments.
Yeah.
That was the mutual fund responding to market news and all of that. So how do you go and take that kind of basic? I'm really very curious that I hope another how this so good go GMM have not entered Canada. It's true, $700 for you to earn on a more serious note, for you to earn $700 monthly on a mutual fund. I don't know if I can quickly do a mental math of how much you need to be investing. So my darling sister, I won't advise you to.
Okay.
No, if you want to do it, because and most of these mutual funds are for long term, it's long haul. Yeah, you can do something that is your own money. And of course, this wasn't a financial planning class in itself. It was just about debt management, which is also part of financial planning. There's something we call savings to investment, where you're saving.
Sister, don't tell them about financial planning so they can attend the next meeting. That next meeting, you people.
Okay, let me
financial planning very soon.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So please go ahead.
Okay, hello. So I just wanted to find out your views on okay, if someone has debt on credit cards and has a line of credit at a lower percentage, so maybe the credit cards are 22, but the line of credit is maybe less than 7. is it wise to take money from the line of credit and sort out the credit cards and then start paying back the line of credit since it's at a lower interest rate?
So, and there are some school of thoughts, there are people that have done that, do that, because of course your line of credit is usually lower. So they want to just crash their credit card. And that's really, and I would subscribe to that if the person is already there are already too many debts, as in, so there isn't cash flow to just even take care of the two. So this is, you're between the devil and the deep blue sea, as they would say. So I would say that, yes, it's something that I would recommend. So you're taking, because don't forget that your credit card is at 20 something, your line of credit is less than 7. But also don't forget that your line of credit as well, you have a minimum payment. So the more you take out from your line of credit to fund your credit card, don't forget that also increases what you should be paying on your line of credit.
Okay.
So it's something that you just have to look at carefully, but just looking at it on the surface, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe I should also share. So the lady that asked the question around borrowing money to this thing, personal story, I've actually done it before. So because I work in an FI and, we get, a financial institution, we get, our rates are usually lower than what's it called. We get like staff rebates on this thing. So I'm taking this loan, with the hope that, I can get, I could invest it somewhere that I could get more money and everything. And then the investment just went belly up, boom, but I was still left with the loan. So if you're going to take loan to invest, please make sure that it's in a secured instrument. So like treasury bills. There was a time in Nigeria, for example, that treasury bills went as high as 19%. So if I took a loan from my office, from Stanbic at 9%, for example, and I put it in treasury bills, no brainer, I'm making a spread of 10%. That's a fantastic investment. That's a good, what's it called? That's a good debt, because I'm able, to generate income, and I'm also able to service my loan.
Okay.
There are like questions. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. There are like some questions in the chat room, sister. So
okay, so I'm just taking one. Yeah. Okay, someone asked the question around credit pull. Okay, no, let me start with, thank you very much. Okay, you mentioned something about Walmart credit being bad. No, I didn't say it was bad. I just said that, you're just going to get a lot of offers. People are going to throw you. So I have a Walmart credit card, actually, and it's been very good for me because it's one of the things that has helped me to build my credit. But what I just do is this. Walmart credit card is one of the nice ones, because why? You also accumulate points. And the points, the good thing about the Walmart credit card or any of the store credit cards, especially if it's a store that you visit often, you can then use those points and those rewards, you can monetize it immediately. So there's a loyalty program that is attached to it and all of that. Meanwhile, I have another bank's credit card where they say I have like 35,000 points. I don't even know how to monetize it. So I'd rather just use more of my Walmart credit card because I can monetize it. Once I'm exiting the till, it does say, oh, you have $10, whatever. The maximum you can use today is $8. Do you want to use it? I always just click maximum. Please help me reduce what I'm spending. So it's not a bad loan. It's not a bad debt. It's just how you ultimately use it, how you service it, your availability compared with your limit, and and just not just going on a spending spree, really. Because I think that's what those cards do for you. You just keep getting here, getting there, and you're just spending. So it's not in itself, credit cards, whether it's Walmart, whether it's normal bank, it's not bad. It's about how you use it. So another person did ask about the hard pull and the soft pull. So the soft pull is what you do by yourself. So me, anytime I'm bored or any was report, I go to my BMO app, I go and check. Let me see what my credit score is looking like today before one tenant will not be paying their utility bill. One thing would have happened. Just sometimes just want to humor myself, and maybe because I had fallen victim of when I didn't check, and I just checked. And it was this soft pull that helped me, actually. Because that day I was just also sitting, let me just check my credit score. And I saw that the thing had gone to the 600s from the 800s. And I was like, oh my God, how in heaven's name did this happen? And I can tell you, it takes a long time for that thing to come back up. This happened since late last year. I am not back to 800. Of course, God has helped me. I've made very significant progress and all of that. But you see, and that's why I talk about, you must just keep your eye on it. Now, what it also does for you is that the kind of credit score that you have also determines the lender that you can have access to. The more your credit score is very low, you realize that it's the category B lenders, private lenders. We'll take a mortgage to tell you this particular lender will not touch you, because the category A lenders have a minimum credit score that they are looking for. So that's it. So the soft pull is the pull that you, as an individual, you have done by yourself to check. There is no, you don't lose any points. But where you have gone to apply for a credit card somewhere, you've gone to apply for a revolving loan or whatever, any kind of loan, and they need to check your credit score, and it is pulled based on your request for a loan. That's a hard pull. And every time that is done, I think you lose 5 marks, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 10, I think it's 5 from your credit score. So that's the difference. I hope that clarifies it.
A person asked 2 questions. There's another one with it.
Okay, sorry. What's the second one? Okay. Also, I heard getting several cards helps to build one's credit score. How true is it? You see, it's neither here nor there, especially where if that's all the credit that you have, you might want to get 1 or 2 credit cards just to build credit history. But by the time you already start having, you have a mortgage, you have a car note, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin, so that by the time you now want to get serious, you want to get better credit, because a credit card is not better credit too. A credit card is for do. That's the way I call it. I'm new in this place. The easiest way to build credit footprint and credit history is credit card. Those are not the kinds of loans. The kind of loans that we are looking for, the kind is the mortgage, the business loan. So we don't want to have populated all our, what's it called, with so much credit cards. If at the beginning you're taking it to build a credit footprint, to build a credit history, by all means good. As you begin to expand and get better credit, maybe your mortgage, you have other, good ones. You don't want too many credit cards. And how do you even want to manage them? Because don't forget, there are costs associated with these credit cards at the end of the day. There are loans, there are what's it called. So I wouldn't, maybe in the early days of coming into a country where you're trying to build, credit history and credit footprint, yes. But as you go along and you then have access to much more productive credits, I would say just keep it at 1 or 2. Yeah, I think there's another message. Okay, somebody say yes, it does. Yes, it does to what? Sorry, Grace, what were you helping respond to?
You were talking about the soft pull and the hard pull. So you said, do I understand this? So I said, yes, it does. Helps.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You were talking about the difference between the soft pull and the hard pull.
Oh, okay. Whether you got, okay, whether
yes,
you,
yes,
okay,
it
yeah,
does,
the
now I
clarification.
understand.
Okay, thank you very much.
You.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions, anybody? Any other questions? I know that we've gone like 15 minutes past our time, but I'm sure everyone has learned a lot and no one is complaining. And we still have quite a number of people still here, like we're 31 and we're still 29. So people are not upset and have left, like taking much time. So, but thank you so much, sis. We're so grateful to have you here. She's going to be back in a few weeks, and this time is for financial planning. So you guys be prepared for that. But thank you so much. Thank you for the insights. Thank you for the words of wisdom, for advice. And if you remember, for those that are still TCN members and happen to attend church service today, I am still I'm a Nigerian in Canada. That's the message, but I don't know. I will wake up in the middle of the night to join live service for the past almost 4 years. You see that my case is different. So don't mind, because I want to do live, I don't want to do.
You don't want to watch it later.
Except I'm working rather. So if you are listening, one of the things that we had talked about in church today was, listening, the fact that some people will bring words of wisdom. God sends people to us in different ways. And, the things that you've heard today, trust me, I'm sure that it has ministered to everybody in one way or the other. For those in debt, you can start building yourself out with some of this knowledge. For those that are not in debt and maybe, people have come to you that come do this, come do that, but you've heard now, that this is not the right way to go, or do this before you do this, you've also learned not to go in the, in the way that will get you into debt. For those of you that are not in it, you've learned how not to stay at, you've learned how to keep staying out of it, because except is a good one, we know what I mean. It's the bad one I'm talking about, but if it's a good bet and you are making money and you are building your network, by all means, look for more ways, share it on the group, it's us.
Exactly,
So
please.
Yes, so you see the way eBay came to share now, that they told that, if, for example, sis had said, jump on it, all of us, I'm going to call her, eBay, come.
And I don't know, I speak as a man, what's it called? I'm just a bit curious of $700.
You are the
$700 guaranteed monthly. That person must, because the rate on GIC, so the only mutual funds today that can guarantee anything is called GIC, that's guaranteed. Yeah. And for you to, the rate on GIC right now is less than 0.02. So for you to get $700, if my maths does not fail me, you're talking about 1.4 million or thereabouts.
In there.
Yes.
I'm going to go back and ask him again, and then I can get back to you, because he was so sure of what he was getting every month. So I'll check with him again just to see what exactly he did.
The GIC, because 700 monthly is 8,400 per annum. 8,400 per annum with the current GIC rate means that you have about, let me see, if you have 840,000 at 1%, yes, at 1%, that's 8,400. And GIC rate is not even up to 1% right now.
Anyway.
Yeah, so
but continue, we are not going to do this place.
just be careful.
eBay, go and find out when you
and please don't borrow money to put in a mutual fund that is not GIC. GIC guarantees, so you're fine, your mind is at rest, because you know that whatever happens, that interest or that income is guaranteed and you can service your loan.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any men in the house, thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Ibe, can you please help us with the closing prayer?
Oh, okay. All right. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this beautiful session today. We thank you for just finding all the ways that you do to take care of us and give us information that is necessary per time. We thank you, Lord, for everything that we have had today. We thank you for all the different financial situations that we are in. And we thank you, Lord, that because we have you, we know that we can learn and grow even better and always improve. We ask, Lord, that what we've had today, what we have learned today, you give us wisdom, Lord, to not just listen, but to put in practice. You open our eyes to opportunities that will put us in better place financially. And we ask that we'll continuously profit from this world. It's going to start as a seed and you just keep growing and reproducing as well. We thank you for the vessel that you used to teach us this evening. We ask that you bless and replenish her and you increase her and you give her more wisdom because she's giving out, and also to just increase on her own as well. And we thank you, Lord, because we know that you hear us. We thank you, Lord, because we know that you are on our side. And we ask that we are not just blessed to line our pockets, but that you also use us as blessings to others as well. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great week ahead. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
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 Senior JJ, good evening.
Ah, Prof. Ewambi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
It's been a while. Washing. Hey, my darling. Hi, my darling.
Thank you.
Daddy's baby. How are you there?
Fine.
Fine. Good. So what are you drinking?
Water.
Water. Okay, that's good. And what time do you go to bed? What time are you supposed to go to bed? Hello?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So when are you going to bed? You're looking at daddy. Are you supposed to be in bed?
8 o'clock. She's supposed to be in bed by 8 o'clock. Official.
Okay, 8 o'clock. Are you going to school tomorrow?
Yes.
Me, just stop recording.
She's ready for school tomorrow.
She's ready. Cool. Thank you. Let this lady get on her way.
All right. Good night, Akusho.
Yeah, sure. Good night. We'll talk.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye, darling.